welcome everyone to this first design tutorial, permaculture design tutorial for 2024. I'm welcoming many of you I've seen many times, so thank you. But some of you, this might be your first session. So welcome to the Permaculture Educators Program and Permaculture Design course live sessions. These happen regularly. We have probably about 80 to 100 live sessions that go out every year. And this is our first design tutorial. And we have a very special guest with us today, my dear friend, GAVIN Hardy, who is a landscape architect, a community garden educator, coordinator, a permaculture designer, coordinator of Queensland Community Gardens, a Churchill Fellow. Oh my gosh, it's like you're in good hands today. So, and the focus that we're going to take is actually observational drawing, really looking at how you can be noticing what's going on around you and be able to communicate that visually. This is a really fantastic skill to have, particularly if you're doing site analysis work, so you can take your own notes, of journaling, if you are wanting to communicate to clients that you're working with, if you're wanting to, as you're an educator, as you're running your classes and walking around sharing what you're noticing, you can do some observation. So many applications for this, and I'm sure Gav will explore more of the reasons why this is important with you too. He did send out yesterday sent out a handout. I've dropped it into the Hive event notes, so you'll be able to find it there. But I think Gav's also putting it in the chat for you as well. So just a couple of extra resources that will be helpful. I hope you got my note too, to say that to bring some pen and paper and preferably soft pencils like 2B. So if you haven't got that now, maybe just pop off and grab some and come back, and that would be great. I'm going to be here in the background helping let people in. If you've got any questions, feel free to either just drop your question in the chat and we'll make sure that Gav sees it, because he's going to have two screens going. He's going to be talking to you with one screen. He's got you'll see his hands working with the other one, so you can copy along. So he is very multi-talented, but I'm not sure that he'll be able to check the chat as well at the same time. So that's my job. So I'll be checking the chat and making sure any of your questions you've got will get to Gavin. And and feel free to be chatting away in there, about other resources that you've found about design that you find helpful. What's the word I was thinking, like applications for this. You think, oh, this would be great for this. Like really, feel free to use the chat in that way. Without anything more, I am going to replace the spotlight with Gav. Now, hopefully you're seeing Gav as your main screen. If you're not seeing Gav as your main screen, you might want to check your settings up the top. It gives you a little box that says View. And in that, you can change what you see. So you're in charge of what you see. I'm trying to set the settings so you'll see Gav and his hand soon when he puts that on. And that way you'll get the best experience of being engaged in this. But I'm actually calling in today from not Gubbi Gubbi country, which is where I normally am. I'm calling in from Gunakurni country down in East Gippsland. I'm on an island at the moment. I spend about a month on this island a year. It's where my parents have a place, and we're all here as a big family. So I kind of brought my laptop. Actually, no, I've brought my desktop as well. So I've got my little corner, and I set up and I sort of work during the day and play with the family, and it's just a beautiful space to be. So yeah, please also maybe just drop in the chat where you're calling in from, and acknowledge any traditional custodians of the land which you're calling in from. With that, I'm going to mute myself and hand over to you, Gav. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks, Morag, and thanks everyone for coming along. It would be really great, because we're running a workshop with a group of permaculture practitioners. If you could all turn your videos on, I'd really appreciate that. I'd love to be able to see your faces. And great to see folks from all over. Oh, Hawaii, Texas. I think someone was from the UK. all over Australia. Lovely. Oh, someone from Northside, Brisbane, Gubbi Gubbi country. Yeah, amazing. Lovely to see. Look, I'm coming to you from Turrbal Yagara country in a place known as Kurilpa in Brisbane, coming to you from unceded country here. And I want to acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. Yeah, so observational drawing skills. So look, I've been involved in permaculture for a long time, since the 1990s, and landscape architecture. I'm a qualified engineer as well. And I'll just show you some of my journals, some of my work that I've been doing. I'll share my screen. Get that going for you. See the camera. So look, I use journaling and sketching to really help my observational skills. So as permaculture practitioners, one of the key skills that we need to develop is our skills in observation. I always say to permaculture people, if there's one thing you do in permaculture is you become a really good observer of the world around you. Even if you don't do any design in your whole permaculture life, just become a great observer. Okay, that's the fundamental source skill, really. And I'll go into this a lot more today, but the ability to draw really helps you to observe. And there's a whole lot of neuroscience around that, which I'll go into. But look, these are some sketches that I did on an overseas trip, all back in 2022 when I did my Churchill Fellowship. These are sketches in community orchards and in food forests around the world, and these drawings have really helped me to both remember a place and to really help me understand it. And you might be looking at these sketches saying, oh, that's a really great drawing, or it's a really crap drawing. It doesn't really matter. What the drawings are really about for me are not about my artistic ability. They're about my ability to observe, and drawing helps to hone my ability to observe. I'll show you some other sketches. These are more recent ones. So, you might think they're great or they're not so great, but what these are about, once again, honing my ability to observe. The drawings here on the left-hand side, they're called gesture drawings, where I'm not actually looking at the page at all. I'm just looking at my thumb and drawing the contours of my thumb. And that's really helping to help my observational skills. Okay, so that's why I do a lot of drawing, a lot of observational drawing, and today I want to go through a few things with you. I guess some of my aims for today are to really help you get more confident in drawings. Perhaps in the chat, if you just want to put in whether you're are there any artists in the room? Love to know about that. If we can put that in the chat. Anyone who's actually trained in art, love to know that. So getting more confidence with your drawing skills, finding some techniques to hone your observational skills. Okay. Observational skills using drawing. Okay, and we're going to explore a little bit about developing a field kit that you can take out into the landscape with all your pens and paper and pencils or whatever you want to use, could be charcoal, could be graphite, for getting out there and just observing the world. Okay, so there's sort of the three main things I want to, sort of my aims for today, and the other thing, I guess the program for today. So the program is I'm going to go through a little bit of theory because we need to do that, particularly around neuroscience of drawing. Okay, you need to understand the left brain and the right brain. You actually have two brains, not one. We'll go through a bit of that, and then we're going to do some exercises. Okay, we'll do a lot of exercises today. All right, we're going to just keep on practicing, and then you're going to have a go at drawing something in nature. Hopefully you got the memo about bringing something from the natural world into this class, because we're going to draw it. Yeah, I see some people holding up some things. Great. We're going to do that. We're going to have a little 20-minute break sometime in this session. Okay. And then we're going to have a look at the kit. All right. So how does that sound? It's pretty full. I'm trying to hold this to 2.5 hours. Shit, we could do this all day. I could do it for 2 weeks, but we've only got 2.5 hours. Okay, so let's get into it. So, and the other thing I just want to invite you into is just having a bit of fun with this, having a bit of fun, and just participate. Okay, look, there's no right or wrong way of drawing. A lot of people get really intimidated by drawing and saying, "Oh, I can't draw. I'm not an artist," you know, blah blah blah. This is not about. This session is not about teaching you to be an artist. I'm certainly not an art teacher. I'm a permaculturalist who uses the techniques of the artist's world to improve my observational skills. Okay, I hang out with a lot of artists. My partner is a really accomplished artist. I have lots of chats with her about this stuff. But I'm not an artist, and I'm not teaching you how to be an artist. Okay, so really important for you to know that. And just look today, let's just have a bit of fun as we go. All right, so there's an invitation to you. Okay, so I'm just going to put that away, and I'm going to just talk a little bit about the key resources that I use, and I really recommend for you guys to perhaps get a hold of. So central to this session is I draw on the work of Betty Edwards, drawing on the right side of the brain. So Betty's work's been around for decades, since the 1970s, and she talks about the left brain and the right brain. I'm going to go into that a lot more in a bit. And you know, she goes right into there we go. There's some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about. But she goes right into how is it that you know, the great masters can draw this stuff. You know, like they've learned how to really become great observers, and they've switched on the right side of their brain. And we don't do a lot of that in our culture. Our culture is very left-brained. Okay, so we're going to delve into that book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. Suggest you write that down, by Betty Edwards. Okay, another great book that we're going to draw on is this one, Drawing the Landscape by Chip Sullivan. Chip is a landscape architect in California. And this is a great book about just for landscape architects, really, but for anyone who's interested in drawing the landscape. So we're going to draw on some of his stuff. We're going to do some of his exercises from his book today. And then if we get time, I doubt whether we get time for this, but this is another great reference that I'm been using more recently. John Muir-Laws's book, To Nature Drawing and Journaling. Okay, another amazing book about observation and how to hone your observation skills, whether it's animals, plants, or or anything else. Yeah, another great book, and we'll delve down into that as well, hopefully, if we get time. Okay. Some websites. I'm just going to see if I can jump across into some websites. I'm going to actually stop sharing and reshare. All right, hopefully you can see this. So this is Betty Edwards' official website. It's called drawright.com. So write that down. This is a really great website. It's sort of an extension of all of her books. I think she's had 4 editions of her book. Okay. And you can actually do some of her courses online. If you really want to get into this stuff, you can do some of her courses. So another great resource. And another one, particularly if you live in a city, excuse me, are the urban sketches. So urbansketches.org. There's a whole network. I think they're operating in like 400 cities or something like that around the world. And that's just a group of people who go out and draw the urban environment. Okay. And you know, some of the people who go out on this stuff are really accomplished. You know, they're architects and artists, but there's a lot of people, and I've been involved in urban sketch groups before, you know, just going out and drawing stuff. It's a really great way to hone your observational skills. And there's some great examples there, you know, very accomplished sort of work. I guess if you're going to put stuff up on your website, you put up the very best. But yeah, if you can get involved with an urban sketching group, or if you live in the country, there's often lots of little groups out there who are doing, you know, meeting up and doing landscape drawing, or what they call plein air drawing out in the open landscape. You know, little groups around. So have a look in your community to see if there's any groups out there that might be interested, that you might be interested in joining. Okay, so that's a few different web resources to go and have a look at. All right, so I'm just going to change something over here. I've got a little bit of a cheat sheet up here, and I just need to change over. I've got so much stuff for you guys that I'm finding it even hard to remember what I'm going to be showing you today. So yeah, I just wanted to dive into a little bit of the core concepts around this stuff, drawing on Betty Edwards' work. So I'll just go back into sharing my second camera. Yeah, so let's pull out Betty's stuff, and I'll just go through a bit of this for you. So, you know, you saw the title of Betty's book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. What the heck's Gavin talking about? The right side of the brain. Maybe you guys have heard some of you have heard about this sort of concept, but if we were to take a cross section through the top of our heads, our brains sort of look like a walnut. They're a walnut. It's a walnut shape. There's 2 hemispheres to the brain, and you probably already realised this. There's the left side and the right side of the brain. And they both function independently, but they function together. And for most of the tasks that we do, we use both hemispheres of the brain. One really interesting thing is that with our hands, so that's our right hand, excuse my poor drawing, and oh God, that's a funny hand, isn't it? And that's our left hand. Well, the right hand is, for most people, is controlled by the left side of the brain, and the left hand, for most people, is controlled by the right side of the brain. Are there any left-handers in the group? I wonder if there's any left-hander. I can't actually see all of you at the moment, but if you're a left-hander, that's probably been controlled by the right side of your brain. And there's some interesting stuff around that handedness. Okay. In our culture, we discriminate. We discriminate. We have a cultural bias towards the left side of our brain. Okay, and we discriminate against the right. And I'll give you some really potent examples about that. So in Betty's book, she draws on the French origin of the word left. And in French, anyone from France today? Anyone who speak French? I'm probably going to really garble this word, but the French word for the left is let's have a look. I think that's called gauche. Now we're talking about handedness here, not so much the brain. So this is about if you're a left-handed. Okay, that word translates to being really awkward. Okay, really awkward. In English, in Old English, the word for left comes from the word lift, which means weak or worthless. Weak or worthless. So, you know, left-handed people back in the day, and even to this day, have been discriminated against. It's very prominent in our culture, and it's actually prominent in other cultures as well. For right-handed people who are, you know, most of the world is Western world at least is right-handed. The French word for right is droit, which means good or just. Okay, and the old English word for right, it comes from the word ret, which means again just or straight. Okay, and you can possibly start to see, you know, in politics, you know, the right is the conservative, the straight, the very straight and narrow. The left is the progressive and the radicals and that sort of thing. We discriminate greatly against the left hand, okay, which means we're discriminating against the right side of the brain. Okay, so I hope you're keeping with me here. There is a reason for going to where we're going to go to with all this stuff. So what are the attributes of the left? Well, let me just expand the page a little bit for you. So this is the left side of the brain. Okay, not the hands, the brain. Okay, so the left mode controls the left mode is really involved in language. Okay, language, numbers, the verbal side, our ability to talk is all coming from the left side of the left hemisphere of our brain. Our ability to keep time comes from the left side of our brain. You know, keeping on time. The really rational, okay, the rational side of ourselves, okay, that comes from the left side of our brain. All right, and in the Eastern culture, you know, that the left is associated with yin. It's the feminine. No, sorry, got that completely wrong. It's the yang. The yang. It's the masculine. Okay. All right. And the right with the right mode, your ability to recognize pattern comes from the right side of your brain. Okay, developing the right side. So, you know, permaculture, all about pattern, hey? Recognize pattern recognition. If we can develop the right side of our brain, we become much better at recognizing pattern, okay? Recognizing people's faces is an ability of the right side of the brain. Our spatial ability, you know, measuring stuff off when we're walking down the street to make sure we don't trip over, something we don't even think about, but it's actually being controlled by the right side of our brain. The concrete. So relating to things as they are at the present moment, that's something that the right side of the brain controls, okay? And the analogic, what does that mean? It's seeing likenesses between things and understanding metaphoric relationships. That's controlled by the right side of the brain. And of course, all of our drawing ability comes from the right side of the brain. The intuitive is the right brain function. In Eastern culture, it's the yin and it's the feminine. The feminine, the feminine, something like that. The right side's associated with the moon, the left with the sun, and on it goes. We could say that the right side's involved with emotion, okay? And the left side is involved with reason. Okay, so just wanted to show that. And the other thing I wanted to just read to you, I'm just going to stop sharing now. And I'm just going to pull up something from Betty's website. Let's have a look at that. So this is a quote that Betty calls up in her website by Richard Bergeland, who wrote a book called The Fabric of Mind. And he says that you have two brains, a left and a right. Modern brain scientists know that your left brain is the verbal and rational brain. It thinks serially and reduces its thoughts to numbers, letters, and words. Your right brain is your non-verbal and intuitive brain. It thinks in patterns or pictures, composed of whole things, and does not comprehend reductions, either numbers, letters, or words. Okay. Betty Edwards' work is based on a Nobel Prize-winning neuroscientist, Roger Sperry. And Sperry said that for the left and the right brain, each hemisphere is indeed a conscious system in its own right, perceiving, thinking, remembering, reasoning, willing, and emoting, all at characteristically human level. And both the left and the right hemisphere may be conscious simultaneously in different, even in mutually conflicting mental experiences that run along in parallel. So they're both operating at the same time. And I believe as really great designers, really good designers have a balance between the left and the right side of the brain. But in our culture, we don't get a lot of opportunity to exercise the right side of our brain. And so this is why I think our ability to draw helps us to observe, and it helps us to become better designers. Okay, and you can really drill down a lot more into Betty Edwards' work, recommend you go and have a look at her website or have a look at some of her books. And I know where I live, her books are available in the local library. You can get right into her stuff there. So, but I guess the core of this knowledge is to say, it's the right side of our brain that does all the work in terms of drawing and observation, recognizing pattern, which is a really important part of being a permaculture designer. And we don't get a lot of opportunity to exercise it. And we actually discriminate against the right side of the brain. You know, artists and creative people have always been treated with suspicion in the Western world. You know, there's a really long documented history of this stuff, and we really favour the rational, the logical. You know, to I believe our detriment. You know, we look at our built environment in our cities. They're very rational and logical. We don't get a lot of opportunity for creativity. And look what we've created. Anyway, I could rant on about that for a really long time. I'm not going to. I'm going to get more into this workshop. So, are there any questions so far around that? It's a big piece to sort of try and absorb, and I really recommend you go after this workshop and maybe have a look more into it. But does anyone have any questions that you want to put in the chat right now, or even turn your microphone on and just ask a question? That'd be great.
Thank you for that. Those books look really interesting and worthwhile. And I wonder if you could please put the ISBN for each of those books. There are 3 of them in particular,
yep,
into the chat so we can copy them. Thank you.
Check the chat. I've dropped that in the chat already. If you just scan back.
Thank you, Morag. Thank you.
No worries.
Wonderful. Morag's 3 steps ahead, as usual. Great, thanks, Morag. All right, so guys, enough of the me banging on about theory. Let's get into some practice, hey? Because I know you want to start doing some exercises. So I'm just going to draw on some exercises to start off with from Chip Sullivan's book. These are just warm-up exercises for you. And one of the other things to understand about drawing and observing is, yes, our eyes are important, but at the end of the day, we don't actually observe with our eyes. We observe with our brains. And so here's some exercises to or an initial exercise at least, just to experience that a little bit. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit of this stuff, if I can find the right page. Okay, so this is a little exercise called finding your mind's eye. So hopefully you're sitting comfortably, and you can just relax for a few moments. So this little exercise will take maybe 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. So I just want you to relax. I want you to close your eyes, if you can do that, and just breathe slowly and deeply. Okay, just breathe really slowly and deeply, and just get into a nice breathing rhythm. And once you're into that little rhythm, I just want you to try and watch the visual images that are moving across your mind's eye. Now, look, for some of us, we have really vivid visual images. For others, not so much. I'm sort of, for me personally, you know, I'm sort of midway. I don't have great visual imagery. But you can keep closing your eyes and just see if you can actually experience, or can you draw on a memory? If you draw on a memory from the past, sometimes that comes up as a visual image or even a glimpse of an image. Okay. So what I just wanted to show you there is that seeing is more than just looking. Okay. So seeing involves the mind. Our eyes take in light, but we process it all in our brains. Okay. And that's called an observational skill, actually, is actually switching on the brain, switching on the right side of the brain. Okay. You can do this exercise as a warm-up exercise anytime that you go out to do drawing. Okay. Before you even put pen to paper, just close your eyes and start visualizing in your mind. It's actually a really good warm-up exercise to do, particularly as a person who maybe you've never done any drawing before. It's a really lovely exercise to do. Okay, so that's the first exercise and that was called finding your mind's eye. So the second exercise from Chip's book is called seeing. All right, so just forget about that little exercise we just did. We're going to start this new one. So anything that's in front of you right now, so maybe one of those objects from nature that you've got, or maybe you've got a bowl of fruit somewhere close by, or your kettle, or just any common object. If you can grab that right now and place it in front of you. It doesn't have to be in front of the camera, just place that in front of you. Okay. Okay, so just sit in your chair and just relax totally and completely focus on the object. Just really look at that object, okay? And ignore everything else around you. Just really focus on that thing that's in front of you, okay? So I just want you to observe how the light is hitting it. How does light hit that object? Is there a differentiation of light across the object? Okay, and just use your eye to follow the outline of the object. So really focus on the outline of that object and look at its shape, the shape of the shadow that it's casting. Is there a shadow that it's casting? Have a really good look at the shape of it. And let your eye wander over it and observe every single detail of that object. Okay, I'll let you do that for about another minute. Okay, wonderful. I wonder when you were doing that exercise, were you starting to name the whole thing or parts of it? If you were putting a name to different parts of that object, you know, the shadow, or there's the outline, or, oh, it's got that color or this color, or the light looks like that. That's your left brain cutting in and giving it verbal messages. Okay. What trained artists do is they learn to switch off that naming of things, so they can really get into the right brain. Okay, so here's a third exercise. I'm just going to share screen again. All right. So here's a really famous sketch by Leonardo da Vinci. Now I just want you to observe the lines. Okay, you can see that it's a face, but just look beyond the different features of the face. Try not to name them, and just look at the line work. Okay, that Leonardo had done, probably using charcoal or something like that. Not really sure what the great artist did back in the day, but just have a look at the strokes he's made with his pen to create what we see as very familiar objects. Just really observe that very closely. Okay. You know, those eyes look like eyes, but actually they're just a series of pen strokes. Okay, so the great masters got very good at observational drawing, at observing things as they really are. And we'll go through another exercise in a bit to really help you turn off your left brain, because what we usually do when we if I was to say to you, draw a picture of a face right now, draw a picture of a human face, you would be drawing on your symbol system for drawing a face, and your symbol system, symbols sit in the left side of the brain. You wouldn't, for most people, we don't really sit and observe what's going on. We actually defer back to our symbolic system. Okay. We actually, most of us stopped learning how to draw at about the age of 10, age of 12, and all of our symbols for, you know, faces and eyes and mouths and trees and houses and cars, for most adults, we're stuck at about 10 or 12 years old. Okay, and that's what we draw on. And Betty Edwards goes right into that stuff. Okay. So that's a little bit of a warm-up exercise for you guys. And now we're going to actually do the real work, all right? So hopefully you got my set of drawing exercises that came up to you. Some people have printed them out, that's great. I'm going to just share the screen again. So this is a classic image. I guess many of you guys have seen before. It's called a Reuben vase, and while you're looking at this, you know, you're probably going, is it a vase or is it a face, or is it two faces on the left side and the right side? So very famous experiment in neuroscience, looking at how we perceive objects. Okay, and we can use this Reuben vase image to really demonstrate how the left brain and the right brain sort of do things differently, and it's also a great way to show you when the right side of your brain is actually switching on. Okay, so what I want you to do is pull out a pen and a piece of paper. I'll go through this with you right now. I'm just going to stop sharing and I'll reshare my camera. And we're just going to do an exercise in Betty Edwards' book. Let's have a go here. So, and those exercises were sent, the exercises have been sent to you guys, and it's page 46 and 47 of Betty's book, and it's called the vase and face exercise. So I'm just going to read out a little bit from her book, and then we're going to practice the exercise. All right. So this exercise is specifically designed to help you shift from your dominant left hemisphere mode to your subdominant right hemisphere mode. And so with your left, so okay, so we'll just get into this. First of all, I'm just going to read out the whole process to you first. Before I want you to listen to what I'm going to say before you even do anything. All right, it's really important to do this. So you're going to draw a profile of a person's head on the left side of the paper, facing toward the center. If you're a left-hander, draw the profile on the right side, facing towards the center. So here's an example. So if you're a left-hander, that's what you would start with, drawing that. If you're a right-hander, you would start drawing that side. Okay. So And you can make up your own version of the profile if you wish. It seems to help if this profile comes from your own memorized stored symbols for a human face profile. Next, draw the horizontal lines at the top and the bottom of your profile, forming the top and bottom of the vase. Example here, going across the top. Okay. Now, go back over your drawing of the first profile that you draw with your pen or pencil. As the pencil moves over the features, name them to yourself. So name them for forehead, nose, upper lip, lower lip, chin, or neck, and repeat that at least once. So that's the left brain, naming things, okay? Naming the symbolic shapes. So the next step after that is to starting at the top, draw the profile in reverse. By doing this, you will complete the vase, okay? The second profile should be the reversal of the first in order for the vase to be symmetrical. Watch for the faint signals from your brain that you are shifting modes of information processing. You may experience a sense of mental conflict at some point in the drawing of the second profile. And just observe that. Okay, really important to just observe what's going on in your brain. And observe how you solve the problem. You will find that you are drawing the second profile differently, and this is the right hemisphere mode of drawing. Okay, so perhaps just to start you off, I'll start this drawing, and you can copy me if you like, but the first thing we're going to do is draw, if you're a right-hander, you're drawing the left profile of the face, and if you're a left-hander, you're drawing the right profile of the face. So you're drawing on your symbol system. What do you think is a forehead, and what do you think is a nose? And then I'm drawing on the lips. Remember, there's no right or wrong way of doing this. And then I'm drawing on the chin and the neck. And there's my little profile. Hopefully you've had a go at drawing your profile. Okay, it's very simple. When you get to that stage, just draw a line at the top and a line at the bottom. Okay, now before you start drawing the other side, just go through and start naming the different parts. So I'm not going to call it out, I just want you to do it silently, okay? And do that a couple of times, just running over with your pen or pencil and naming in your head the different parts. Okay, so once you've done that, now draw the other side and see if you experience a shift from your left brain to your right brain, because you're going to draw this in a completely different way, right? You'll start using spatial awareness to draw this. Remember, it has to be pretty symmetrical. Okay, how'd you go with that? If you want to turn your I'm just going to stop sharing. If you want to turn your microphone on, I'd love to just get any thoughts or reflections on that exercise. People are holding some of theirs up. That's nice to see. Yeah, that's great. And it's great that you've done that. Of course, this is not about judging how well you've done this exercise. This is really about trying to get you to experience what it's like to draw with the right side of your brain. So on the left side, when you drew that first profile, you were naming things. You were giving them, oh, that's the forehead, that's the nose, that's the lips, that's the chin. That's your left side.
Chrissy's
Your
got
left
a
side.
hand up, Gav.
Sorry?
Chrissy's got a hand up.
Yeah, Chrissy, do you want to turn your microphone on?
Hey, Gav, that was actually really quite profound. I found that when I got to do the other side, the opposite side, I felt like I was free falling, but I felt blank. And I was like looking at the side I was copying, and I could not see how this was going. I was just like lost. But I was just like letting go. And I was like, this is gonna be a mess. And I got to the bottom and I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's the same. How did that happen? It was really just a profound experience.
Yeah, so that cutting in, this is crap, that's horrible, it's not working, that's your left brain sabotaging. And we do that constantly in our culture when it comes to creativity. So again, good artists learn just to turn that off. Yeah, and you said you just got into it sounds like you got into a bit of a flow with doing the second profile. That's the right brain. Okay, going into a bit of a flow state. Did some of you really struggle with this? I know when I've done some of these exercises in the past, I can really feel, I can actually feel the right side of my brain really working. Like I'm exercising a muscle.
Joanne's popped in the chat that that she thought if she wasn't trying to make it identical, it might have been easier. It's interesting comment.
Yeah, that's the left brain judge coming in and, oh yes, you must have it perfect. You know, did you find when you drew the second one that you were measuring? You were sort of measuring the distance between, the distance from that part of the nose. I need to get it about there, and I was trying to get that bit right. All that measurement, that's the spatial brain, that's the right brain doing all that work. Okay, you weren't actually using your symbol system to draw that second profile. You were using the right side of your brain to draw that second profile. All right. So that's great. Any other observations around that? Cool. Well, we've got a bit of extra time, so I'm going to take you into another type of vase face drawing because we've got a bit of we're going well with time. So with this one, rather than using a familiar sort of symbolic system to draw a profile, you can sort of draw a monster type face. So, which is even a bit more challenging for the left brain. This starts to really switch off the left brain a bit. So I'll give you I'll show you what I mean when I talk about a monster face, and I'll start drawing my monster face. And on his forehead, he's got a big wart, and then he's got this really long nose of a couple of ugly-looking spikes coming out of it. It's quite fun to draw, and you notice I'm naming the parts. I'm using my left brain a bit. I should, I'm going to try and switch off this left brain. Big mouth, and some really ugly teeth, and then a protruding chin with another wart. And there's my monster's face. Do you want to have a go at drawing a monster's face? So challenge yourself to do that. You might find this a bit harder to do. And again, do the same thing. Just go through the different parts of the face and name them left brain wise. Okay. And have another go at drawing the second profile. How'd you go with that? Great. Fantastic. Yep, there we go. Any comments or observations about that little exercise?
That was easier than the first one.
Yeah, yeah,
Why
right.
is that? Why is that?
I think it's easier because your the monster face doesn't so much draw on the left brain symbol system. Okay. And in fact, it's sort of the left brain is sort of going, what the heck's that? Oh, I don't know what that is. I don't want to be involved in that. That's not a nose. Oh, I don't know what to do. I'll keep out of this and let the right brain take over. And so these little exercises are about tech. And Edward's work is all about this. It's all about techniques for just letting the right brain take over and let the left brain is just going, oh shit, I don't know what's going on here. I'll butt out of this. And so maybe that's the reason why you found that a bit easier. When you said you found it a bit easier, was it drawing both sides or one side? Don't know. Okay.
Barb's
Any
got
other?
a hand up too.
Sorry,
Hi.
Maury.
Hi.
Barb's got a
I
hand up too. Yeah.
actually had the opposite. I found I had more tension. And first of all, thinking about a monster, because, that's not something I really enjoy. And then trying to get it much more like my original, the left side. I put more effort into it. Whereas the first time I just sort of just did it,
Yeah.
easily. But this one I found much more tension.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like we're really exercising our brains a bit to draw this stuff. Yeah, and in her book, she talks about that second exercise. Let's see if I can find that. She calls it the Baroque vase or the monster face. Yes, it's a very Baroque looking vase. And she makes a comment about that. She says, especially in this complex, more complex type of vase face drawing, the second profile can best be done, even perhaps can only be done by shifting to the right hemisphere. The complexity of the form forces the shift to the right hemisphere. Okay, because your left brain's going, well, I don't know what that is. The point of this exercise is not how perfectly you do the drawing, but rather that you try to feel the shift from the left mode to the right mode. That's the point of this whole exercise. And maybe that hasn't quite clicked with you yet. I think the next exercise that we do, it's really going to click with you. But after this workshop, maybe if you want to just practice that vase face drawing again, just try to be aware of the difference between the modes. As you begin to recognize when you have shifted cognitive modes, you will be taking a first step towards learning to control by conscious volition which side of the brain you use for any given task. Okay, so drawing is mainly a right brain task. It's not completely a right brain task, and observation is not completely a right brain task. But we want to really, it needs to be the dominant side of the brain when we do observation and drawing. Okay. All right. Very good. I'm thinking it might be good now for you guys just to digest a little bit of this, taking some baby steps into it before we get into another fantastic technique called upside down drawing. So I'm thinking let's just take a 10-minute break. And if you want to practice the vase face drawings again, let's do that. If you want to do that, if you want to go and grab a glass of water, and a little bit of a break is actually good for just processing the exercises that we've just done. So 10 minutes, come back 10:15 my time in Brisbane. Don't know what the time is in your part of the world, but yeah, let's have a little 10-minute break.
Hello, welcome back.
Just having a look at some of the comments in the chat. Great to see we've got some artists in the room and architectural draftsperson Greg in the room. It's great. Maybe you guys have already delved into some of this stuff around left brain, right brain drawing, but always good to reinforce and revisit. And I love some of the comments about the monster faces and the struggles that you were having to draw and the measuring up with drawing the second profile. Yeah, that's the right side of the brain. I did this exercise a couple of weeks ago. I've had, in preparing this workshop, I've had to go and revisit all these exercises that I did years and years ago. It's been nice to do. And yeah, so the left mode is the symbolic part of the brain where we store all of our symbols, everything. Language is symbols. The alphabet are a bunch of symbols that relate to a sound. And the naming of things is the left. The right mode is the measuring, the spatial, the relational, the comparative, pattern recognition. So that's just a warm up into the next exercise, as we sort of go a little bit deeper into switching off the left and turning on the right. And this is upside down drawing, another great technique that Betty Edwards uses. I've done this so many times. Did it 25 years ago, revisited it a few times, and I just think it's a really terrific technique for people who are learning how to draw. So I'm just going to do a little bit of reading from Betty's book, and then we'll get into an exercise. So, familiar things do not look the same when they're upside down. We automatically assign a top, a bottom, and sides to the things that we perceive, and we expect to see things oriented in the usual way. That is, right side up. For in the upright orientation, we can recognize familiar things, name them and categorize them by matching what we see with our stored memories and concepts, a very left brain thing to do. When an image is upside down, the visual clues don't match. The message is strange. The brain becomes confused. We see the shapes and the areas of light and shadow. We don't particularly object to looking at upside down pictures unless we accord on to name the image. Then the task becomes exasperating. So if you look at this this image here, a very famous person of the 20th century, and I'll turn it the right way up in a minute, but there's no way that you can work out who that is unless you've got some sort of amazing perception. So if I turn that the right way up, I think you'll all know who that person is. It's Albert Einstein, of course. And so our symbol system switches in and we automatically recognize who that person is. Okay. All right. So I'll just continue to read a bit of Betty's book. So inverted orientation, so upside down drawing, causes recognition problems with other images as well. Your own handwriting. So if you find a shopping list or something like that today that you've or a list that you've written by hand, turn it upside down. Have a look at it. You won't be able to recognise that at all. There's no the whole symbol system's just been completely switched off. That's the classic sort of left brain thing to look at handwriting. So in a really complex drawing, such as the one shown here, so have a look at that one. It's almost indecipherable, isn't it? I'll even hold it closer to the camera so you can have a really good look at it. Almost indecipherable, okay? Because the left mind just gives up on it. The left brain just can't work that out. If I turn it the right way up, it's actually a very famous painting by one of the great masters of the Renaissance. So this is about switching off switching off the left side of your brain, and we're going to do this little exercise here. Okay, so what I want you to do is grab a pen and paper, or pencil and paper, doesn't matter what you're using, and we're going to have a go at some upside down drawing. All right, so if you have a look at this image here, this is a famous sketch by Picasso. And we will turn it the right way up eventually so you can see it. Normally for this exercise, you might take 40 minutes or an hour to do this exercise. When you get into that sort of length of time, it gives you enough time to really switch off the left brain and really turn on the right brain. We don't really have that sort of time today, but we're going to just get into a taste of it. Hopefully do about 20 minutes, maybe a bit longer, maybe 25 minutes for this drawing. So what I want you to do, I'm just going to read all of these instructions to you before you begin. Okay, so usually what you would do by yourself probably doesn't really work in this environment, is to just maybe play a little bit of background music. when you're doing this, just to again help to switch on the right side of the brain. All right, so if you look at the upside down drawing for a minute and regard the angles and shapes and lines, you can see that the lines all fit together. Where one line ends, another one starts. I'll just move that over a bit so you can see it properly. So let's concentrate on that. The lines lie at certain angles in relation to each other and in relation to the edges of the paper. Curved lines fit into certain spaces. The lines, in fact, form the edges of spaces, and you can look at the shapes of the spaces within the lines. So this is a thing called negative space. So rather than looking at, say, the line, you can look at the space created between the lines. Okay, that's looking at negative space. That's another really great technique for drawing and observation. Okay. When you start your drawing, begin at the top. I think what we're going to do, we're going to begin at the bottom. Actually, we're going to begin at this part of the drawing. Okay. And copy each line, moving from line to adjacent line, putting it all together just like a jigsaw puzzle. Don't concern yourself with naming any of the parts. It's not necessary. In fact, if you come to parts that perhaps you could name, such as the hands or the face, remember, we are not naming things. It's really important. This exercise is not about naming things. All right? Just continue to think to yourself, well, this line curves that way and this line crosses over, making that little shape there. This line is at that angle compared to the edge of the paper. So that's the right brain doing all that spatial relationship stuff. Okay. Again, try not to think about what the forms are and avoid any attempt to recognize or name the various parts. Okay, so let's make a start with that. All right, so this is the image. I want you to start at the bottom and turn off the left side of your brain. Don't try to name any part of this drawing, okay? All you're doing is looking at angles and shapes and spaces. I might even bring this up a bit for you so you can see it better. So maybe by now you're getting right into this drawing. You're getting right into the lines, the angles. You're really focusing, and maybe you're starting to experience a shift from your left mode to your right mode. Maybe your brain is starting to ache as it's getting exercised. Keep on going. You're going well. So at this stage, hopefully you're in a bit of a flow with this work. For some of you, your left brain might be rebelling, might be trying to sabotage the whole task. Maybe some of you are off now having a cup of coffee. This is a very real thing. Our left brain will try to sabotage this activity. And don't beat yourself up for it, because we do this all the time in our culture. But yeah, keep going and just see if you can get into that flow. Remember, everything's in front of you. You don't have to try. Don't try and make this complicated. Okay, guys, you want to finish up what you're doing there? That's great. Turn your if you want to turn your thing up the other way and have a look at it. Let's do that. It's always good fun. If you want to hold it up to the screen, perhaps, so people can see.
Debbie shared hers in the chat. She scanned it in.
Oh, come on, Debbie. Thank you. There's one that I did a couple of weeks ago. Okay. Again, no judgment here. It's not about, this is, yeah, great. Some really great work there, like just measuring and drawing and, again, no judgment about the quality or the look of what you've drawn, but did you, I'd love to just to get your thoughts and reflections on that brain process. You know, how did that feel? The object of this exercise was to switch off the left brain, the brain that does all the naming and all the language and all the symbolism, and hopefully get into a flow where it just couldn't cope with what you were drawing. It's a series of lines. I'd love to get your reflections. Any comments or thoughts on this process? I've seen some great comments there in the chat.
I found myself dividing the space, the overall space,
Yeah,
into quarters and trying to place the various sections of the sketch into those quarters, if you like, in my mind, and then beginning to place the general shapes. And
yeah,
only
classic right mode of thinking, right brain mode of, yeah, like, so, you know, dividing up a space, trying to get it into a spatial grid. That's the right brain, you know, so, you know, it's not necessarily a really organic process. Right brain stuff can be very measured, and you're trying to measure things off and get the spatial distance and having a technique. You know, there's obviously a little bit of left brain coming in there as well. You know, the rational turning into a grid and that sort of thing. But that's the dominant right brain coming in to that. And so that's the way we draw it. So in reality, we're not going to get around the world turning things upside down to draw them. But that's just a technique to learn to switch off your naming system. Because when you go out into the real world to draw things and observe, if we're not conscious about this stuff, we just get into our system, our symbol system. We start drawing a tree like we drew a tree when we were 10 years old, instead of actually really looking at it, really looking at the tree, really looking at the object and just drawing it, you know. And that's what you were doing with this drawing by Picasso, which, you know, that's the drawing. Very famous sketch by Picasso.
Yeah, Ruth's got her hand up too.
Yeah, Ruth, yeah.
Hi, thank you. I found that I was obliged, like I felt compelled to be much more observant, to be aware of everything, of I would say not details in a stressful sort of a way, but I found myself just sort of feeling with my eyes the lines and the curves and things like that.
Yeah.
And I did find that I divided this body. I did on one side and went all the way down to his hands before I started the other side, which made it very interesting in terms of the juxtaposition of the body parts, the shoulders and things like that.
Yeah. And so yeah, using it, so you're just measuring with your eyes, you know, just sort of not naming things, just looking at the angles and the shapes and just trying to fit that in, and the, you know, various ways that you could go about making that drawing. Yeah, that's right, Ruth. You know, it's great to hear that you sort of got fully into that right brain mode of thinking.
Yeah, I really like this, you know, because it gives us that chance to translate this thinking into how we see things in front of us, isn't it? You know, we we have certain strategies or certain things that we recognize as like, oh, that's that naming thing all the time. And so just really stepping into that open space of really actually looking, I think is really great.
I think artists actually make great permaculturalists because they've had that years of training around just observing what things as they are, and accessing the right side, actually knowing. So this exercise is about trying to train you to know the feeling when you're in the zone. Okay, when you're in the drawing zone, which is the right side, actually experience that feeling, and then keep on accessing that feeling every time you go out to observe the world. That's the mode you want to be in. And of course, you know, if you're out there doing a permaculture design, you're going to be doing some left brain activity for sure. You're going to be getting out, you know, writing things down, taking notes, talking to your client and all that sort of thing. We need to be able to do that. But we also need to access the right side. And that's what this exercise is really about. If I share the screen again, I'll just show you some examples from Betty's book of other people who have done this exercise. Okay. So the first two images, these two images, or all these images here, are from brand new students in Betty's course, and they've been asked to draw a picture of a person. And these are adults, but they're drawing like children, aren't they? They're sort of very childlike drawings of a person, and I would probably say that most of us would draw like that. Okay, because that's where we've got to in our culture. We typically get to 10 to 12 years of age sort of level of drawing, and then, you know, the artist is beaten out of us basically. You know, we've become very left-centered in our brains. And so the first two students here, they were just asked to draw that picture the right side up. And you can see that their drawings are very, very basic, aren't they? They've used the left brain symbol system to draw the picture. But these two students here, they were asked to draw that image the way you just drew it, upside down. And you can see that their drawings are far more accomplished. They've switched off the left side of their brain and switched on the right side, the spatial, relational, comparative part of their brain to draw. Okay. And they've done a pretty good job, considering that, you know, this person here draws, that's how at that point in time, when at the very start of the course, that's how they, of course, with Betty, that's how they drew a person. And, you know, the first day of the course, they probably would have been doing this exercise. Okay. So that's the power of this sort of thing, all right, about accessing the right side of your brain. Any questions or comments about this anymore? I mean, I can see lots of great stuff there in the chat. Yeah, the background music can really help a lot as well. That's a really good thing to do. Well, funnily enough, music is sort of centered in the in the left side of the brain, but it seems like music, you know, the whole musical processing and stuff. But it seems to work. I can see that people really enjoyed the approach. That's lovely. Oh yeah, Greg. Yeah, so you drew some light guidelines and then filled in the detail. Interesting to observe the way the fingers intertwined. Yeah. When you I don't know if people got to the finger part, but was that difficult not to name the fingers? Well, the same with the head. You know, was it really difficult not to name the head? Yeah, and that guideline thing, you know, that's a really that's a technique that even the great masters were using, you know, back in the 14th and 15th, or the 15th and 16th centuries. You know, they were using grid to understand perspective drawing. Yeah, so, you know, very old technique, but again, that's the right brain coming in. All right, fantastic. Just having a look, looking at my cheat sheet here. We're going really well for time. All right, I think might be time for you guys to have a go at having a go at drawing something. So I did ask if you could bring something from the natural world. I've brought my little shell, and I've got an acorn here. Maybe you've got various different things, plants or leaves or whatever you've got. If you haven't got that now, that's all right. Whatever you've got in front of you, really. But it is nice to practice on an organic shape. So I just want you to spend a fair bit of time, really. We could probably do 20 minutes on this. It's just drawing that object. Whatever you've got in terms of media, doesn't matter, exercise book, piece of paper, whatever pens you've got or pencils. Again, this is not about the quality of your drawing. It's about, I want you to see if you can experience this left brain to right brain shift. Okay. So have a go at drawing whatever you've got. I noticed some people were holding up a plant leaf. That's great. Get right into it, guys. What have you got there, Elizabeth? Drawing your hand. Turn yours on, Elizabeth, and tell me what you're.
I'm just making the point, Gavin.
Yep.
That most of us have hands, and they are from the organic world. They are from the natural world.
Beautiful.
So we're not short of things.
Not short of things. That's right. If you didn't bring anything in today, you've got a hand
Like
or a
even
finger.
a pencil, it's
Yep.
made of wood. So just being maybe pedantic.
No,
not
not
to
at
be.
all. No, this is good. This is lovely. So yeah, if you want to draw your fingers or your hand, do that. That can be quite a difficult thing, because you might start naming every part of your hand, because we're very used to we have a very strong symbol system with our hand. But guys, 20 minutes. Let's just get into this activity, and don't worry about the quality of what you're doing, but really focus in on the shift from left brain mode to right brain mode. Okay, have a go at that. I'll see you in about 20 minutes. Okay, well, let's wrap that up. Hopefully, you got into a little bit of right mode drawing independently there. You didn't have to turn your object upside down, or you didn't have to stand on your head to draw it. Any thoughts or reflections there? Love to hear your thoughts, or in the chat.
Yeah, I was trying to draw my hand, and I really, like, normally I would try and draw a hand. This time I didn't look at the hand at all, and I was just looking at, okay, well, that's in line with that, and was very analytic about it. Looks so much more realistic. Thanks, Gav.
Yeah, and that's the point. That's exactly the point, Morag. You said, I'm not drawing a hand, I'm just drawing this thing in front of me. You know, yeah, fantastic. I loved Elizabeth actually earlier made a great comment. Maybe it's possible to befriend each part of our brains and develop methods of cooperation. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I think that's where this concept of balance comes in from a neuroscience perspective, is we're actually using both hemispheres of our brain. Of course, you know, there's some activities where, you know, one needs to dominate, another part needs to dominate. I think you know, if you're an engineer designing a bridge, you probably want your left brain to dominate. Probably don't want your too much of the creative part coming in and the bridge falls over. Or if you're writing out if you're going to the bank to organise your finances, that's the left. We want that to kick in.
Debbie's got her hand up, Gav.
Yeah, Debbie.
Debbie Potts.
Yep.
Oh, she's looks like she's frozen.
Oh, we'll get back to Debbie later, hopefully. So Jeannie says, I did a vine leaf which was moving, but also had shade on part of it. Also 2 quail eggs. Yeah, great. Yeah. All right, go on, Jenny. Yeah, holding it up there. Yeah, and Debbie's comment about being in the present moment. Did you find you got really in the zone and just stayed there? Like, it's like the chatter gets turned off. The chatter in your mind is the left brain, you know. The being in the present, being fully focused, that's the right side of the brain. Okay.
Yeah, Joanne's saying I was drawing, I think I was still drawing a feather, so it was hard to let go. The critical voice kept taking over, like
Yeah.
the shadow was still there. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It takes practice, doesn't it? It's a practice.
It takes practice. And I find sometimes, particularly if I'm drawing very familiar objects like a face or my partner's face, because we will, you know, sometimes do tandem drawing like we did the other day where I drew her and she drew me. My God, you know, like the left side just wants to cut in all the time, and I'm very aware of that. But that's the point of the practice, is to be very aware. It's just about building your awareness. It's not about the quality of the drawing, or it's just building the awareness and building your observation skill.
And I think this is the thing too, Gav, isn't it? Like when you're getting into the practice of doing this kind of observational drawing, it's not for an exhibition. It's not for necessarily showing to anyone else. It's for you to practice the observation. And
yeah, that's right. You know, the byproduct is that you will actually become a better drawer. You know, that just comes. That's the technique. That's what all the great masters learned, you know, 500 years ago. The Chinese were doing it way longer before then. But you'll just become a naturally better drawer, or, you know, dare I say, artist. Apologies to any artists in the room, but trained artists, because I have deep respect for people who've gone through artistic training. But, you know, I know that my drawing techniques are improving. Sometimes, you know, sometimes I create duds, but that's all right. This is not about, you know, I've probably banged on about this too much already on this workshop, but this is not about judging the quality of your drawing, particularly while you're starting out. This is about improving your ability as an observer.
I think we've got Debbie back. Debbie, did you want to jump in? And you had your hand up, but then you froze. Did you want to say something?
Sorry, my whole internet dropped out. I'll let you continue on. I'll catch up a little bit.
Okay, no worries.
All right.
Debbie.
No worries. All right. So that's really great. And, you know, you've done this inside a space, inside a room, in a controlled environment. And so we're not going to get time to do it on this workshop. But maybe sometime today or during the week, you can go outside and do this. Do exactly what you've just done outside in nature. Because as a permaculturalist, that's where you've got to be operating most of the time. You know, just observe nature. And take out your sketchbook and your pen and have a go. You know, that's the point. Okay, so the next part of this bit, so we sort of last 20 minutes. I just wanted to show you some of the tools of trade that I use, the field kit that I use to take out in the field and go drawing. I live in the city with my partner. We actually go out on our bicycles riding around the city and take our sketchbooks with us and do drawing. And so I'm just going to share screen again. Share my camera again, and I'll just pull out some of the tools of trade that I currently use when I'm drawing. So perhaps to start with, one of the most simple is a pencil. Let's see if we can get some focus on that. Not focusing very well, but this is a 3B soft pencil. So all of the pencils in the B series, they're the soft pencils, all right? Don't know why it's called a B. Maybe any of the artists or architects in the room might be able to explain why the soft pencils have the code B. And then the hard pencils are code H. So anything from B to upwards. So I'm using a 3B pencils. In my kit, I think I've also got some B pencils. They're quite useful to use. As you've seen, there's a pencil sketch I did yesterday. All right. I'm also using felt tip pens. So let's put a white background on that so you can perhaps see it a bit better. That's a felt tip. That's a 0.5 millimeter felt tip art line pen that you can get at an art supply shop. That's a 0.3. So that's what I currently use. You can get very different sizes, 0.1, 0.2, perhaps a little bit too fine for outdoor sketching. I even find 0.3 a bit too fine for outdoor. I do a little bit of 0.3 work. In fact, I think yesterday I might have been doing a little bit of 0.3. So that's done with a 0.3 pen. Okay, sometimes I'll even use a fountain pen, good old-fashioned fountain pen. Fountain pens are probably perhaps the most sustainable pen in some ways, because you can refill them. So this has a refillable bladder inside it. So I can pull that out and it can be refilled fairly easily. Sometimes I will use a fountain pen for outdoor sketching work, and it has a really nice feel about it. And yeah, take the time to find a pen that really, pens and pencils that really suit your hand. That feels really nice to hold. Okay. Some other mark making tools that you might like to experiment with. Perhaps this is the most sustainable pen, actually. This is a dipper pen made from bamboo. I think these are, they come from the Eastern traditions, China and Japan, and all you need to do is dip that in some ink. So if I pull out my ink bottle, if I can find that. Oh, where is it? It's here. So, if you want to get around on the trail with an ink bottle and a dipper pen, that's an interesting thing to do, but it's certainly possible to do that. Okay. So you're just dipping it in the ink and drawing away. That's a very traditional method of drawing. Could be fascinating to play with that, but you can buy this stuff at art supply shops. Okay. More dipper pens, more things going on. Some stuff that you might want to get into is graphite. So a pencil is a graphite stick that's encapsulated within a piece of timber, but you can just get graphite, a big chunk of it, and you can draw with graphite if you want to do that. It's sort of like crayons for adults in a way, but they're quite fun to draw with. You can also draw with charcoal, and you can buy charcoal in sticks as well. Charcoal's quite lovely to draw with, but if you can't get access to an art supply shop, you can draw with charcoal from the fire. People have been making marks for thousands of years, and they didn't have to go to an art supply shop. All right, you can make marks of anything. You know, in our culture, our wonderful Indigenous people were making marks of charcoal and ochre for a long time, still are. If you live in a place where you can't get access to any of this stuff, you can always use a good old biro to make a mark with, okay? You don't need fancy pens for this sort of thing. Biro, anything you can get hold of, kids, biros, pencils, that's fine. And then in terms of paper that you could use, you know, this is from an art supply shop. It's very cheap. It costs me about $3.50. And it's fairly good quality paper. I think if I read that, it says it's 150 GSM. What does that mean? GSM, grams per square meter. Anyway, that's a measure of the thickness of the paper, and that's a fairly good quality for drawing on. Journals, you know, I showed my journal before. This is a lovely moleskin journal that you can pick up at a bookshop. You know, I think Dymocks in Australia sells moleskin journals. Really nice to travel around with and draw on. Of course, if you're doing design work for clients, you don't need to do that. You could, if you don't want to, you could just use that to draw with. It doesn't have to be fancy, guys. Exercise book's fine. If that's going to be your field book, if you're working with clients, draw in that. You know, so you've got it all in the same book. But you know, I use a small exercise book at A5. Okay, in size. That's really good to have as well. What else have we got? You can actually get other types of journals. This one's a quill journal. It's got lovely bleached white paper. It's probably 150 GSM, but it's very white paper. It doesn't, and it's bleached, so it doesn't color over time. You know, a lot of old paper actually yellows. If you don't want that to happen, then you need to get paper that's bleached. I think that's the right terminology. Maybe the artists in this space can correct me on that if I've got that wrong. Yeah, so different types of paper to work with. In terms of a little field kit, this is a little hand sewn field kit that I get around in. So you can make it if you want. You can also buy this stuff as well, and it's just holds pencils and paper, pencils in the pouch. My journal, my little field book is sitting in there. I can fit that in there. You know, I can fit my journal in there. Simple as that. And then I go off and I put that in a bag over my shoulder, and away I go. Other people have really fancy drawing kits. It's all built in one. There's a shoulder strap that's built into the kit, and away you go. Other folks might include a little watercolor set in their kit if you want to get into watercolors. We haven't done any of that today. That's sort of for me, that's next level. I don't even go near watercolor. I'm not a color person. I'm a little bit afraid of color, actually. Putting color on my page. Maybe I need to get over it, but I don't use color, but some people do. Look, a simple pencil case makes a great kit. Very simple. You know, kids' pencil case can make a really good kit. This is my partner's set. She's got she uses an A6 notebook, really small one. Let's take a sneak peek at her stuff. She does lovely work. She's not afraid of color. So, you know, she does a whole lot of squiggles and stuff in hers. Yeah, again, observational drawing, and she keeps that in there, her little journal. And then she will keep a whole stack of mark making tools in here. What has she got? There you go. That's a really interesting little rubber, an eraser that she uses for different techniques. yeah, there's a biro that she uses. It's a simple biro for making marks. Yeah, she's got a whole lot of other stuff in here. That is a massive graphite stick, really big pencil, big clutch pencil that she uses. Okay, so lots of things you can do to make a kit. Can be very simple, or you can go to town and have a really nice bag and a whole lot of really great pens if you want to go through and do any of that. Okay, so we're sort of getting to the end of the session. If I can stop sharing my screen and perhaps I'll start sharing again. I'll pull up those exercises. So hopefully you've got all the exercises now that we've sent you. And you'll see that there was the fast-faced drawing exercise from Edwards. If you want to go through that again, have a go. Always good to do. Even revisit it in a few years' time. It's a really great exercise to do. There's the upside down drawing from Edwards. Great to do. Hope you got a lot out of that exercise. And some homework perhaps for you. If you want to continue down this route of developing your skills, there's a whole stack of other exercises in this realm. One of them is called contour drawing. I'll show you an example if I've got time in a bit, but contour drawing is another great way to improve your observational skills. So there's an exercise there from Chip Sullivan's book. And another amazing technique is sort of around drawing negative spaces. Okay, another excellent way to improve your observational skills. I use that technique a lot to draw canopies of trees. Love that technique, and there it is there. If we had another 2 hours, we could get into a whole lot of negative space and gestural drawing, but I'll leave this for you as homework. And then John Muir-Law's book on nature journaling. So really have a look at these exercises and get a hold of the John Muir-Law's book. I know it's available in my local library. There's at least 4 copies of it in the local library. But John sort of goes that next level with his observational drawing, and he uses 3 sort of prompt questions to help him think about what he's drawing. So he said one of the prompt questions he uses is I wonder. Sort of, you know, I wonder why that thing is growing out of the tree. Okay. And then another prompt question he uses is I notice. Oh, I've noticed this sort of thing growing out of the tree. And then another prompt question he uses is it reminds me of something from his memories. Okay. I think this is a really powerful technique. And I really recommend getting into John's work. The other thing he gets into is getting into the broader landscape. And I think this is really relevant for us as permaculturalists. We're not just looking at the fine details. We're looking at general pattern. And he uses techniques of making maps of whole landscapes and doing cross-sectional drawing to understand relationships in the landscape. Really great stuff. And he also uses block landscape drawing, which is another fantastic technique. It's sort of a hybrid of observational drawing and a little bit of imagination coming into it. But it really does help us as permaculturalists. I think this could be a great technique for helping us to understand landscape process, getting into that bigger picture stuff. Okay, so have a look at them after this workshop, maybe today or during the week. And yeah, there could be some stuff that you might want to go on with. I'll just show you some examples of John's work that I've done in more recent times. So there's a bit of John stuff that I've, learning from John Muir-Laws's book, sort of looking at an old tree and wondering what that growth is on the tree and really sort of examining that. So there's a little bit of left brain and right brain coming into it, and then looking at a cross section of the tree in relation to other elements in the landscape. Okay, this is a very common technique that landscape architects use. I'm a trained landscape architect. This is one of the sort of things that I was taught in landscape architecture school, is these sort of cross-sectional drawings, which, sometimes called transects, that really help to understand relationships in the landscape. Again, a bit of John Muir-Laws's work, looking at just the bunya pine, which has a really unusual swelling on the tree. Why does it do that? Sort of using prompt questions to help my observational technique. Okay, so I think that's about it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed today. I'd love to share, if you've got any final comments you'd like to share, that'd be great, either in the chat or on the microphone. Yeah, there's so much into this. There's so much you can explore with observational drawing. It's doesn't end. This is a life skill that you just keep on doing and doing and doing. But I don't think a lot of permaculturalists actually do it. And so I think this is a really powerful technique to improve your observation skills. I'm not sure if people have seen the Reading the Landscape film. Not sure, Morag, whether you've had a video film night with that one yet.
That's coming up, yeah.
Yeah, coming up.
You can access it for free and watch it now anytime. Just look Reading the Landscape. Yeah, fantastic film.
Yeah, and David Holmgren is a big player in that film. And spoiler alert, but one of the things that David talks about is the way to sit. One way to observe the landscape is just to sit in it. It's just to sit in the landscape and observe it. Okay, for giving yourself the space and the time to observe. Okay, what he doesn't talk about is drawing it. And I think drawing the landscape gives you an extra dimension, and it fast tracks your observational skills. Okay. I've done a lot of sitting in the landscape and observing, but I really do notice how much better my sense of awareness gets when I draw the landscape, when I draw the object in front of me, and my other senses get switched on. It's not just about switching on the optical part of your brain or the eyes. I do notice other things going on as well. When I'm drawing, I'm actually much more aware of the sounds around me, of whether it's natural or human-made sounds. Become much more aware of that, and I really do notice my smell, my sense of smell, just really goes through the roof. And maybe I don't know if that's if the smell is controlled by the right side of the brain or what it is, but this technique does actually switch on other parts of the brain.
So, Gav, what I'd like to encourage people to do is to go out and just make a practice of going out and doing this, just as a regular thing, and share it into Hive. Share how it's going for you. Maybe share some of your sketches. This, we've said in this whole session, there's no judgment on it. Just share it as a way of, celebrating that practice of doing it. Gav will be back with us in a couple of months' time. So every quarter, Gav will be doing a design tutorial with us. So we had a session 3 months ago. This is the observational session. And the next session is going to be more about the graphic design skills. So, you know, Gav's experience in landscape architecture and drawing and all of his permaculture world. Our hope is that by running these sessions and recording them so you can come back to them, is to help to cultivate that skill as a sort of observational designer and being able to have the tools to be able to actually communicate these visually as well. So thank you so much, Gav, for being here. It's always a pleasure to see you, and it's such a delight to invite you to be able to share with this group here today and with all of those who are not here as well. So hello to all of you. I hope you've enjoyed this session, and go back to this recording, do an exercise again, scroll through and, you know, sit with that time, and I will document some of the key activities and notes and share that with the recording very soon as well. And also all the links that Gav has shared with us. Feel free also to share any links that you feel are really useful, and any activities that you also find useful in getting this going. Thanks a lot, Gav.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, as Morag said, guys, just keep on practicing. This is the way we do it. You just got to keep on practicing. If you can get to the level where you're doing it every day, you're doing well. I don't do this every day. I do it perhaps every week. Yeah, and that next session, I think we're going to get right into actually how you actually construct a drawing, how you actually make a drawing, okay? You know, from measuring out in the field to drawing, how do you make a scale drawing? If that's, you know, if you want to set yourself up as a consultant, you need to know that. We might
And
get
what to put on a plan and how to set up the whole, you know, the plan setup. Yeah.
All that stuff. Yeah.
All the detailed details.
Yeah, into the drafting. Yeah. Okay, thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Gav. See you all next time. Catch you soon down at the farm, Gav. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.